You're listening to the FM Podcast.
Welcome back to the FM Podcast, episode number 5, with me, your host, Brian Neff. With this week being election week, it's been pretty crazy. I've had my nose locked on the computer screen or the phone or the TV, looking at all the craziness that's going on with the election. So we're going to keep this one light. We're going to keep it quick. And this week we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should train Jiu-Jitsu. So let's get into it. Number 1, the most obvious reason, self-defense. So there's a pretty famous or internet viral clip of Joe Rogan talking with Eric Griffin on his podcast. For those of you who watch Workaholics, Eric Griffin plays Montez on Workaholics. So he's on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Eric asked Joe, who is a well-known jiu-jitsu black belt, and he says, "Joe, what's the point of jiu-jitsu?" And Joe looks at him and just kind of very, I don't want to say condescendingly, but was kind of like, yeah. Well, the idea is, if you and I were to fight, I would kill you, and it doesn't get much simpler than that, and that's a very good explanation. That's why you take jiu-jitsu, because, it applies. There is the sport aspect of it, there's the exercise aspect of it, but you can play other sports, you can do other exercises. The point of jiu-jitsu at the end of the day is to hurt other people. So why is jiu-jitsu such an effective, or arguably the most effective, self-defense martial art? I'm going to take it down to 2 kind of points here. And the first point is that jiu-jitsu lends itself way better than most other martial arts to being scalable in your levels of force in response to the level of aggression and resistance that you're getting from the opponent. So, for example, me being a grown-ass man, I could fight a 5-year-old little girl and not hurt her at all. I can control that situation. I can meet her where she's at, and I can apply just enough force or technique to essentially neutralize her actions, right? And then at the end, when we decide, hey, are you cool? I'm cool. Okay, let me let you up, and she won't even have a bruise on her, So I can go from that level all the way up to, say, I'm getting, in a street fight, or I'm getting mugged, or I'm getting assaulted by, say, a 250-pound football linebacker or something like that, right? Who's intent on doing me harm. Well, I can scale my technique or my response all the way from, let me get a takedown, let me get on top, let me control your body, keep you in this situation, or I could scale it all the way up to ending that person's life, right? I can break arms, I can rip apart knees, I can tear your elbow apart, and then obviously I think when it comes to self-defense situations, the best one for everybody is just send people to sleep, put them in a choke, send them to sleep, and depending on the threat, just kind of walk away, and they'll come to eventually. Or, again, like I said, depending on the threat, depending on the level of threat, you just hold on to a little bit longer, and then you arrange that meeting with Jesus. So that's the first thing that makes jiu-jitsu one of the most, arguably the ideal self-defense style, is the scalability of it. And then 2, the second point, and this is, I think, what attracts, what attracts most people to the martial art, is that rather than focusing on, say, strength and explosiveness, like, say, boxing or other striking, kickboxing, other striking martial arts, jiu-jitsu utilizes guile it utilizes techniques that rely on leverages and off balances. So me, again, being a smaller person, I'm able to use jiu-jitsu as a force multiplier so I can hang with people who outweigh me by 100 pounds, because of the way jiu-jitsu works, because of the way the techniques are used. I'm able to drastically increase my, say, potency, we'll call it, in a physical altercation with somebody who might have every physical advantage against me. So the other thing too, I mentioned guile. A lot of it is tricking people, setting people up, outthinking that person. Jiu-jitsu is described a lot of times as chess with your body. It's you trying to outsmart the other person. The way I like to say is, if your technique is good, people should feel stupid when they roll with you. If you're having to force your technique, or people can see what's coming, and you're forcing it, to me, that's not jiu-jitsu, or at least that's sloppy jiu-jitsu. You need some work. What I want, my goal when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, is I want to make people feel stupid. Like, oh, dude, I didn't even see that coming. That's the people that I respect when I roll with them. The people that just make me feel like a child, they make me feel like I don't know jiu-jitsu at all. Usually, I've been training for a while, and I'll see a lot of things coming a mile away. But it's when you get caught in something and you're like, how did I get here? To me, that is the sign of a high-level jiu-jitsu athlete, competitor. That's the people that I really respect, not the people out here slamming people, not the people out here muscling people. It's the 130-pound guy, making the 200-pound guy look stupid. That's what I think is really cool. So, moving on to reason number 2, relationships. I will tell you now that the relationships that I have developed through jiu-jitsu are probably some of the strongest bonds I've ever had with other people. And that's for a number of reasons. One, most obviously, is that when you roll jiu-jitsu, you're there to hurt that person. This is what I tell people, especially white belts, when they first start. Hey, we're here to hurt one another. We're not here to injure each other, but we are here to hurt one another. And there's a fine line between hurting one another and injuring one another. And when you roll with the same people day in and day out, and you constantly are trusting them, like, hey, if my arm gets extended, I trust him to let go before my arm breaks. I'm trusting him to take my well-being into account when he's applying techniques. So that way I live to train another day. And similarly, he's developing that trust in me because I'm giving that mutual respect to him when I'm applying submissions or when I'm putting him in compromising positions. The last thing I want, is jiu-jitsu requires a training partner. I can't go and train jiu-jitsu by myself. Arguably you can, but for the most part, for the sake of argument, we'll say that it's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. So if I injure all my training partners, guess what? I won't have any training partners anymore, and I won't get to train anymore. So it's always in my best interest to protect my partners and treat them with respect. But, in addition to me wanting to keep training partners so I can keep training, a result of that, or a benefit of that, is that you really develop a strong trust in other people. And these people that are, I would say, some of my closest friends, we have nothing else in common other than jiu-jitsu. I'm really good friends with people who don't agree with me politically, or who have no similar hobbies, who are, 30 years older than me, and they're my best friends. And we meet through that commonality of jiu-jitsu. And then even further, we have that level of trust where I trust him not to mess me up, and he trusts me not to mess him up, And the second point, which is kind of a modification of that point, or a continuation into that point, is you're going to be very physically close with these people. You're going to be in intimate spaces with these people. You're going to swap sweat. You're going to swap blood. You're going to get people's fingers in your mouth. You're going to be pulling their hair. I hate to say it, but you're going to get some dude's balls in your face on the reg. I mean, I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying it happens. So you're going to be in that close, intimate space, physical contact. I guarantee you there's some guys out here that cuddle more with guys than they do with women. So developing that, or when you're in that physical space and you have that physical closeness and touch, you can't help but develop really strong bonds with these people. And I'll tell you this, some of my best friends that I've ever met and to this day are still my best friends, are people that I started training jiu-jitsu with in college, and it's one of those things where it's like, some of them live, 10 hours away, some of them live 5 hours away, some of them I see a couple times a year, but to this day, that bond is still very, very strong, and every time we get together, we train, and I don't know, it's just that bond, you make these bonds for life. So that is point number 2. All right, let's get into number 3, which is stress relief. Any intense or rigorous exercise is always going to help blow off that steam at the end of the day, or blow it off at the beginning of in the morning, so you're ready to go with the beginning of the day. And it really doesn't matter, what exercise you do. But jiu-jitsu is going to be one of those rigorous exercises that is going to make you feel better, except it's got one little extra benefit, and that is being able to work out your violence on willing participants rather than your shithead boss. So, it's always, I know if I have a bad day or I'm frustrated or I get angry at people at work, it's always nice to go and strangle some people and just imagine it's them, It's nice to do a little bit of, get out some of that pent-up aggression in a healthy way for people that are, essentially paying to have you do that to them. So that's always a benefit, is the stress relief. Number 4, and this one's a big one, I think. I think this one's going to be an applicable one in your everyday day-to-day life, and that is getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations. In jiu-jitsu, inevitably, you're going to end up in a very uncomfortable situation, and you're not going to be able to get out. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be getting the pressure. You're going to be smashed. They're going to put your, mush your face. They're going to hurt your, arms and joints and try to choke you. You're not going to be able to breathe well. For those of us who've been under, been mounted by any kind of high-level competitor, especially the black belts, that is just a miserable, miserable place to be. And it's in these situations that you're really forced to be patient. You're forced to be patient. You got to show endurance, and you got to think your way out of that problem. You got to think, okay, this is the situation I'm in. These are the options I have. These are the techniques I know. Because guess what? Just flailing and getting upset, or trying to go rage mode, or get whatever you're going to try bust out the bottom without any technique, that's not going to work, and you're just going to end up tired or making your situation even worse by being sloppy and doing things with clouded judgment. Jiu-jitsu really forces you to stay cool under pressure, to use that thinking part of you to solve the problem that you're in, and then come out on top to get yourself out of those sticky situations. And we're all going to face situations like that, as we go through life. Not everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows, as Rocky says. We're going to have bad days. We're going to come into tough situations. And I'll tell you what, if you can stay calm when somebody's trying to forcibly stop you from breathing, or somebody's trying to break your arm in half or rip your knee apart, if you can stay calm and think and then act in the way that you're supposed to act in those situations, anything else is going to be really easy, because guess what? It's going to be a lot less dangerous, and you're going to have a lot more time. It's not going to be a split-second decision. I mean, it could be a split-second decision, There's going to be maybe some times where that split-second decision-making, that cool under pressure thing is going to happen in a maybe say a life or death situation. You're going to benefit from that training, but for the most part, it's going to be those times where your boss got mad at you, or your wife's mad at you, or your kid is sick, and now it's crunch time. Who's gonna watch him? Who's gonna stay from home from work? Or my bills aren't getting paid, or something happened. You're gonna be able to stay calm in those situations and be able to make the best out of that situation, and do the things that you need to be doing to be successful in those situations. And then finally, and I think this is the most important one, jiu-jitsu is going to change your life. It's going to make you a better person just overall. And for starters, a lot of people that start jiu-jitsu, they're not the most confident people. They're kind of mousy, or they're shy, or they don't think they're good. They don't have the self-confidence that they desire. Jiu-jitsu is going to get you that. If you go and you survive, and you learn these techniques, not only are you showing how tough you are, that you can stay with it, that you can take a beating and stand back up and come back and ask for more, but you're also going to learn some techniques that are very empowering. You're going to be less likely to shy away from that guy who's loud at the party. You're not going to be as intimidated in, say, an office meeting. You're going to have that confidence, and it's going to be because of jiu-jitsu and that change that it's going to bring about you. Two, what else? No assholes. There's no assholes in jiu-jitsu. Assholes don't last because assholes get smashed. So, either if you stick with it and you're an asshole, guess what? You're going to rethink the way your perspective on life, and you're going to change because guess what? You're going to get smashed until you drop the shenanigans, you stop being rude. People don't put up with that on the mats. And if you I haven't seen too many black belts that are legit douchebags, just because we weed them out. They don't last because they get smashed on. Jiu-jitsu people are arguably the nicest people you could ever come into contact with. They're respectful, they're fun, they're easygoing, and they know what it's like, because when you come into jiu-jitsu, when you're a white belt, you can look forward to the next 3 or 4 years of just nothing but getting smashed on, right? It wasn't until, say, I was a purple belt that I started being the hammer. Up until about purple belt, you're going to be the nail almost every time you show up to jiu-jitsu. So get ready for that, and the people that have ego problems, and the people that can't hack it, or the people that take it personally, or the people that are rude especially, they're going to get it, and they don't last. So you're not going to be an asshole. Hard work. You're going to learn. For those, we have an epidemic of laziness in this country, and people that have never had to work for anything, people that are just handed things. Well, guess what? You don't get handed skill in jiu-jitsu. You work for it, and you earn every little bit of it. No freebies. You can have the best instructor, you can have all the money in the world, but until you work, your jiu-jitsu is not going to work. You got to learn it. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to put in the blood, sweat, and tears, because if you don't, you're not going to get good at jiu-jitsu. You're just going to be a guy that says he trains, and we all know a guy like that says he trains, but he ain't no good, So it's going to develop that work ethic, and then it's going to trickle into your health. It's going to make you want to change your lifestyle. Everybody kind of starts changing their diet habits, or the way they eat, or their sleeping habits, because they want to get better at jiu-jitsu. Be like, oh man, I'm getting into jiu-jitsu, and I'm having a really good time, but man, my gas tank's not there. I need to start doing cardio. Man, I feel like I could probably be stronger in certain positions. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start doing some extra workouts, try to build up that strength to make myself a little bit better. You're going to start gassing out, or you're going to run out of energy and be like, you know what, I didn't have breakfast this morning, or I eat like shit. And you're going to be like, you know what, I need to clean up my diet, because guess what? My fuel tank, I've just been putting crap in there, eating McDonald's and trying to train, and that's, it's my jiu-jitsu is suffering because of my diet. You're going to go out on Friday night, and guess what? You're not going to show up to open mat, or if you do, you're going to get smashed on because you're hungover or dehydrated. It's going to really curb your interest in drinking and partying and getting fucked up and living, kind of a reckless lifestyle, because you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, and it's not conducive. Living fast and crazy life, and eating crap and smoking and drinking and staying out late and all that stuff is really going to be a detriment to your jiu-jitsu. And eventually, if you care, you're going to get to a point where you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to stay in tonight. I think I'm going to get well rested because I want to go in there. I don't want to get smashed tomorrow at open mat. I want to be the guy smashing. So you're really going to see when you start jiu-jitsu that you're going to be motivated to change your life in a lot of ways for the better, and that's something that I know happened for me personally, and I know it's happened for a lot of people that I know. And then when people start getting away from jiu-jitsu, they get back into that poor lifestyle choice making processes, and when they come back to jiu-jitsu, they almost got to break that habit again. But at least in that situation, they kind of know what to do, But anyway, that about wraps it up. That's 5 things. Let's reiterate it. So 1, self-defense. 2, relationships. 3, stress relief. 4, getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And 5, jiu-jitsu will force you to become a better person in all aspects of your life. So let's go ahead and wrap that up. We'll call it a week. Thanks for being with us today. I appreciate you guys that are out there listening, which is mainly just my mother. So, hi, Mom. Anyway, but all right, we'll catch you guys next week. Stay safe out there. Go do something hard today. Watch out for the crazies. And we'll catch you in the next one.
You're listening to the FM Podcast.